we can do a quick intro of, there's quite a few AppSheet folks on the call. I'm Praveen, and do you guys just want to do a quick round? Just go in any order.
Hey everyone, I'm Scott. Scott on the product management team for AppSheet.
Hey, I'm Flong. I'm on the analytics team for AppSheet.
Hi, I'm Arthur, also on the product team.
I'm Camilla, also on the product team.
I'm Gail, I'm an engineer working on the mobile apps mostly.
I'm Ginny, sales customer success.
Hello. Yeah, it's Igor. I'm engineer working on infrastructure.
Yeah, so a subset of our team is here. Lucinda and Matt and Joseph, do you want to do quick intros?
Yeah, sure thing.
Hey, I'm Joseph. I'm a tech guy with a education institution that's in a few different countries in Africa, and came over with AppMaker, and yeah, love being a bit involved in the community and part of the development decisions.
And Lucinda? Lucinda, do you want to do a quick intro?
For a nonprofit and been using AppSheet for this year.
Welcome. And a couple of folks from AppSheet just joined, Ryan and Ty and Harsh. So it's a sort of a strange meeting because we have never done like a meet with our posted through a link in the community. So we should just start and see who joins. Usually almost everything in the community, of course, is online. And really, this was just a follow-on to the post I had, which sort of described some of the things we did this year, and some sort of background behind that. I don't know that I particularly want to walk over all of that again, but it would be great, I think, Joseph and Lucinda, if you guys want to start with any, say, either observations or questions or feedback or what you'd like us to do. I'm starting with you because Matt just shared a video with us just last week where he had a bunch of his observations. So we have a sort of a good starting point there with Matt. But Joseph or Lucinda, would you like to go first? Any questions you have?
Yeah, I think personally, I always just enjoy hearing the direction of the platform, and it's yeah, just revolutionized a lot of the way that we do things. And like I said, I came from the AppMaker community, Google AppMaker, and I think I was looking at having some of my apps sort of at a production level about this time of year, and then when the switch to AppSheet happened, I ended up getting those same apps out in April instead. So yeah, just it was an amazing, yeah, just paradigm change in the whole development process, I guess. But just personally, where I get value, I'd also like to offer value, so that's why I jumped in the call, and just to hear. And I don't have anything in particular, but yeah, just thought I would share.
Thank you, Joseph. A quick question. And as you were moving from AppMaker to AppSheet, were there particular things that you feel were lacking in AppSheet that would either have made that move easier, or something you found that AppMaker did much better that we don't, that got in the way?
I really have a lot of good things to say. I mean, the office hours, both the ongoing ones and the ones that I could access on the YouTube channel, made it very, very simple. Sorry if there's noise in the background. I'm home. It's already supper time here in Africa, but yeah, I think the resources and the intercom site that you guys have, help.appsheet, was always good. And the community has been awesome. I think of Steve and Phil always jumping in when I had questions and so forth. So I mean, the presence that you guys have is quite awesome. I really can't fault anything, but I am more sort of development minded, and although I'm mainly sysadmin as my main responsibility, but I think in that way, so it probably comes to me a little bit more naturally than other people, to be honest.
Okay, very cool. We have a
I
couple of
come
minutes.
from,
Go ahead, Lucinda.
I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I come from having done database design, but then I was out of it for over 20 years with having kids. And so I came back in the office, and the software engineering department couldn't do what I wanted to do. So I'm definitely one of the citizen developers in the fact that since they were way backed up, it was going to be 9 months before they could even look at what I wanted to do. So I jumped in and, started getting into it. I found that this was back like in January that the initial information to like get up to speed on AppSheet was, in my opinion, sorely like clear path for how to get someone up to speed. But once I got kind of my head around it, the app community was extremely helpful and still is, as far as, taking on simple questions and now complex questions. And so the app community, I think, is one of the biggest features that y'all have. It is so healthy and so helpful. And I'm kind of doing more than what a simple app would do, but it's been great. Most recently, the changes in UI, I guess, has been kind of vexing because as several people have posted about, changing it to be not from your brand color, but to the theme color, and just different other layout issues that we don't have a choice in. So if we're able to like turn it on or turn it off, it would be much better for me and for some of the other users, as far as, instead of making it all one way, if we have the ability to do one switch and not have to use a format rule to change everything back to a brand color, that's just not feasible. I'm trying to eliminate format rules. I don't want to be adding anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the latest little thing, but we've been very, very happy, and people can't believe that I was able to build something as complex as it is, from having come in and having not done anything in 20 years. So.
Very cool. Lucinda, could you say a bit more about, you mentioned, I think your initial experience was that there wasn't anywhere sufficient guidance in the platform on how to use it. Do you have any thoughts on what sort of thing we might do there? Are you thinking about, at various points we thought about, walkthroughs or for a new user, or just from your perspective, what would have been most useful? Would it have been like video, how to kind of content, or would it have been in product, pop-up walkthrough kind of things, or any thoughts you have on that?
I looked at videos online, and there are several, people that are very common forum users. They had things that were online. I just wanted, I guess, because I'd been out, but to me, I was coming from a database perspective, and so I wanted to try to figure out, how can I make this work, and just learning the terminology and the different things. I'm not sure what would have been helpful, unless there was like an AppSheet 101. Like
Okay.
I'm having to use Asana for work, and I'm having to look at some other scheduling software. And I found that both of those have, there's a lot of resources online about how to get up to speed on those. And so something like that didn't exist with AppSheet, at least at the time.
Makes sense. Just by way of explanation, I guess, around the UI things that you mentioned. One of the things, this just may or may not be useful, but we've always had a somewhat limited flexibility in the UI, and that's sort of been the trade-off we accepted for being sort of no code and responsive on various form factors. So that way you don't build separate UIs for different form factors. We had long debates about this particular topic, which is should people be able to drag and put things in specific spots, right? For many platforms say you can take this widget and put it here versus there on the left or on the right and so on. And we tended not to do that. But we ended up building a particular stylized set of views, if you wish, with some flexibilities. And then the problem is really that once you build apps on them, people get used to them, and any change to them it's impacting everybody. One of the problems is that over whatever 6+ years of building the platform, a bunch of that UI didn't necessarily get built, I would say, right. In that, underneath it gets built with HTML and CSS and so on. It was all not necessarily done consistently. And you start to see the effects of that when you look at on one of our apps compared to, let's say, an app built by Google or built by Apple or something. You start to see, the fonts on this one don't quite align with the fonts on that, or the size change is not quite right. So there was a lot of small things that were off because the product had just been built over time incrementally, and honestly, the original UI was built by me, and I had zero experience with UI. So, you get some of these flaws that come with a small company. So we sort of said this year, we're going to go replumb a bunch of the way the UI is built. And a little bit of a challenge that is, it's a bit of a whack-a-mole. So you sort of fix something in a set of views, and it has some ripple effect on others. And we have failed in some places at catching these ripple effects. I think some of the things that you guys have seen were intentional, and some were not. So it's a source of some frustration for us. It sort of reflects for us the diversity of apps that we see that we can even evaluate against comes nowhere close to the diversity of apps that are built by you. So I mean, if you think about it, there's hundreds of thousands of apps that have been built and being used, and we get to see very few of them. At best, we see them when somebody has a support ticket and say, "Look at my issue." But the number of apps that we see and use and evaluate are much smaller. So that's where in the UI side we're running into some trouble. It's again just by way of sort of explanation. One of the things I had personally pushed the UX engineers on is that we're not just a no-code platform where you don't need developers. You need to be a platform where people get modern, good-looking apps that they don't need a UX designer, but it has really good UX out of the box. That's sort of a goal, and they were sort of in flight towards that goal. So you're taking the system we had, which produced, in my opinion, not so modern-looking, so apps. We're trying to refine that to say the apps that are produced by default should look good. And many of the details we seem to be getting it right, but occasionally we get it like badly wrong in some of these changes we're making. And so we sort of need to learn and react from that. To your point about the brand, for example, I think we focused on making sure there were a number of people's apps where I think those icons would stand out in garish colors. And if you have a lot of them, it didn't particularly look good. But in eliminating the color from them, then it sort of diminishes the brand value, which, as you pointed out, Lucinda. So, we had insufficient focus on that. So it's a sort of a little bit, the UX thing in particular has been a learning exercise for our team. Nirmal and Christophe or Joe, would you like to just introduce yourselves and please give us your any feedback, any topic, anything you care to share with us. Thank you for that, Matt. But,
Okay. So everyone, I just give you a few words because I'm not English very good speaker. So so I'm Christophe. I'm from France. I discovered AppSheet maybe last January. I work for an accountancy company and I'm a consultant. I sell consulting time about business management to work industry companies. I was looking for really simple tools to avoid Excel and Google Sheet use. And I found AppSheet very, very useful, and I'm deeply into it. I think it's a very nice tool. So I'm really concerned about UI problems you just explained, and that's all I have to tell for now. It's okay for me.
For sure, Christophe. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
And what sort of applications are you building, Christophe? Is there any particular business sector that you're building applications in?
Yes, I'm working only in the construction industry. So I use some AppSheet to make some apps about quotation and pricing in this particular industry, and construction site would say management and reporting, timesheet, and stuff like this.
Interesting. Yeah, we have quite a few customers in construction. One of the questions that has come up is, would it be useful, do you think, to have sort of a subgroup of AppSheet community users who are focused on a particular topic, for example, interest in the construction industry? Would you think be useful to you if somehow you could connect up with other people from construction who are using AppSheet?
I guess yes, probably, because as you told us before, I'm not a IT guy by definition, so not even database there or anything like this. I have a really basic knowledge of Excel and IT, so I'm looking for support in the community and everywhere I can find. So obviously it's kind of tough, but anyway, it's no code. It makes possible to give my customer some kind of professional tools, and I'm very happy about this. But to find some information matching my proper needs, kind of difficult. But anyway, other people in the community are making different apps for different needs, and anyway, we can find pieces of information everywhere and connected, but obviously a subgroup with more particular industry needs would be nice, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you, Christophe.
You're welcome.
Joe or Nirma? Hello, Joseph. Yes, great, you found the right speaker.
Yeah. I just wanted to comment on the industry thing, because I think as someone working in education, I can see some value in that. Probably the big question is if a given community will be active, if there will be enough users to form a community. But yeah, if there's a few of us that have sort of been around the block and somebody comes in, we could easily point them to sample apps. I know that's where there's so many apps, sample apps I've opened. I'm like, wait, how did they do that? How did they get that to work? And obviously look under the hood. But yeah, just a place for people to go where they can connect with others who have already turned that corner. I think would be good if they can easily find that and identify, maybe as part of the onboarding process as they're signing up to be pointed to the specific community, perhaps, or the specific industry community within the community site.
Yeah. Thanks, Joseph. Nirmal or Joe Birk, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm just listening in this morning, but I've been using AppSheet for, I think, about 4 years now. Absolutely love it. I'm in the construction, oil and gas industry, and we use AppSheet. I've been pretty prolific. I think right now I've got about 75 or 80 active apps that we're using through AppSheet. And my first one was just just to put a pocket library of AISC steel shapes on my phone, so that when I was walking around, I could reference those documents without having to go back to my office and pull out a big book. So, yeah, absolutely love the platform.
Joe, what feedback do you have for us? Constructive feedback, or things things you'd like us to do differently, or things you'd like us to change next year, or features you want, or anything like that?
I don't really have anything on my wish list. I like all the I like the new UX. I like some of the changes I've seen. The workflows, being able to save things now instead of just creating PDFs, being able to export CSVs.
Okay, thank you, Joe. There's something that comes to mind where you think, hey, we need to add, if we added this to the platform, it would make your, it would help your apps, or to give you new capabilities, or something that's you're currently using that you wish would work better. Just, do let us know. That's, you have a sort of a captive audience here from a cross section of our team.
Okay.
Your words will carry a lot of weight. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have any constructive criticism, I guess, right now. Just keep up the great work. I've enjoyed using AppSheet. It's been a success for our company.
Cool.
So, yeah, keep it up.
Thank you, Joe. Nirmal, would you like to share your thoughts? Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess not. Okay, Matt, the floor is yours. So let me add a little commentary for those who don't know, whether in our AppSheet product team or the customers here. Matt is kind of like maybe almost our original customer. Like Matt, this is our original partner. Almost 5 years ago, I feel right now, at the point we were a team of about 10 people, maybe. One day, Matt sends a message saying, "I quit my job. I'm going to work full-time on building apps with AppSheet." And there was a sort of jaw-dropping moment for all of us, where we were like, "Oh, somebody's taking us seriously. Oh, this is trouble." Should we? And in fact, my colleague Brian was like, "Should we call him and tell him to hold on to his job?" Yeah, and Matt built the very first set of training videos for AppSheet, and that was many years ago. And they're still among the best videos on AppSheet. Terrific job. Thank you, Matt. To the editor thing, it turns out, so the way our editor works, it's not at all for having multiple people live edit the same thing. The way things like Google Sheets and Google Docs and stuff achieve that is that everybody who, let's say Matt, you and I were both editing the same Google Doc, both of our connections are going at a low level, are going to the exact same server that Google has. That's what allows it, when you make a change, it's automatically able to, inform my session that the change is happening, and you get that live stuff. There's a bit of a trade-off in that it limits the number of concurrent people who can be accessing a doc or a sheet. So those things start to fall over a bit when you get to 50 users accessing a sheet at the same time or something. And the other bit of a problem I have is that those servers can't fail over easily. So now 50 people editing an AppSheet app's not a problem. It's just we didn't design for this scenario at all from the beginning. So, the failover thing is a little relevant, though. The way we have currently set up AppSheet is every single time one of the apps or the editor needs to talk to our servers, it could talk to any of our servers in that region. And that way it gives you a lot of ability to. So that's sort of just a sort of detail. We have ongoing work. There's an internal version of this already of incrementally saving every change you make in the editor. We call it like a working version. So you don't have to hit the save button, and you get a little bit more of a behavior like you get in, Microsoft Word or something, right? You're sort of halfway typing through stuff. It always has a recovery file. So effectively, we'll be able to do, that has goodness that goes beyond multiple people using it. It has goodness like you added a slice, and you have to try some expression that uses it. Right now, the expression is not, you're not going to be able to test that because you've not saved the change that you made. But we'll be able to do that sort of thing. It gives us a potential path to also make sure you don't lose your changes if somebody else has done something. So it's just a scenario we haven't focused much on. I think you run into it a lot because you're a solution partner and you work with other people. Yeah, we have a whole team now that's focused on how to improve the app editing experience. And so going forward, we'll be able to sort of just have a little more, I would say, a few people wake up every day and go to sleep every day, and in between they're thinking only about, how do we make the app creators' experience better. So this sort of can feed into that. Yeah. Lucinda, you had some feedback, I think, in the yeah, so you have feedback about messaging to WhatsApp. Very cool. Do you want to sort of say more about that? We're quite, curious about, are you looking at just one way out to WhatsApp as a notification mechanism, or are you also looking at responses coming back from WhatsApp?
No, it would just be a one way. We want to be able to notify users when something comes in. And so I do email and I do text messaging, but the text messaging only works for US and Canada. And so we have a lot, or will have a lot of international users. And so WhatsApp is their favorite way of getting things. And so right now it is, there are several hoops to go through to get WhatsApp working, and I have not gotten that working yet. And so, yeah, it's huge in Africa. It's huge in India. I mean, we're a Christian missionary, and so we have group, and so we have people all over the world. And so, to be able to send a notification out via WhatsApp would just be huge. One way, just simple notification to a number, individual person, is what we want.
Totally makes sense. Go ahead, Matt. Cool, that makes sense. Any other high-level feedback? One thing I could do next is I could just sort of show you just an outline of our broad plans for 2021. And so if that's useful, it just sort of walks through broad investments. So we'll queue up some time for that. But before that, is there anything else any of you guys wanted to bring up? Or anybody on our product team either, right? I mean, anything you'd like to bring up? Questions you'd like to ask?
I have one thing. It's simple, but it's frustrating to the users. And it's the fact that we have to have both AppSheet and the app, as separate icons on the phone. Everybody is used to having, you just download an app and it's only there. And so I said, you can hide the AppSheet icon. You don't have to see it. It doesn't have to be on your main page, but people don't understand why it needs to be there. And, it's just a simple thing, but it's like, is there any way that without having to white label it and go through I'm not going to go through the Apple Store or the Google Store. I don't, but it's like, is there any way to not have to do that?
There is, as in, you can just run the app in a browser on the phone.
Yeah.
And then you lose some things, but so it doesn't look like an app. It looks like you open a page in a browser.
Mm-hmm.
We could, there's a form factor, the name is escaping me because it's still early morning where I'm not fully woken up, but there's a progressive web app. So there's a sort of a variant of web app structure, which we're very close to also supporting. And if we did that, I think we might be able to get effectively a web page which looks and functions like an app, but isn't really an installed app on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the challenge is, I mean, actually with Android, it's a little easier to do what we're doing, which is click a button and install stuff. But in iOS, it's particularly complicated, and you end up with the fact that we've got an app from the App Store and then the thing that you built, and the two of them stand out as two separate things. Yeah, it's unpleasant. The app stores are really set up for individual apps built by software engineers who jump through hoops to get them into the app stores.
Mm-hmm.
And we are basically, we're finding, loophole is the wrong word, but we're sort of bypassing what they were designed for by having the single app that hosts all the things you build. I don't know if Gil or anybody, do you have like a better explanation or any other thoughts on this? Gil was on our infrastructure.
Yeah, no, pretty much you nailed it. we have to have this app that hosts all apps unless you want to white label your app. So
Yeah.
both solutions are not perfect, but
Yeah. I wondered, Gil, if there's some way to, I don't know, mark some of the apps as system level or something, so some way to indicate that this thing is not a first-class app, or I don't know.
You mean in the App Store?
The App Store, or once installed on the person's phone.
Not that I'm aware of. One thing though, once we'll have progressive web apps, those apps you can basically any a URL or a website, you can save a shortcut on your phones and it kind of looks like an app. It's a shortcut to a web page, but it's kind of looks and behaves like an app.
Right.
That's one way to go.
Yeah. It won't have some of the capabilities that our app has. Won't have the scanning and won't have the image caching and some of the other things. But
yeah,
it'll be similar to running it in a browser. Yeah. Okay. Anybody? Yes, Ginny.
I just have a quick question for the customers on the call. Has anyone here struggled with getting users to adopt the applications, especially in the beginning? It sounds like most of you have pretty positive feedback, and Joe having 75 to 80 apps. I'm curious to know how many folks are using them, and if you have any successful tips to share with a user adoption plan, or anything you had to do to get people to embrace the apps once you built them.
So most of them, I think, probably have 5 or 6, and they're internal to our company users. We do share a few with some of our clients, just so we give them like a view-only version of the app, where they can just check on status, locate piece marks, because we deal with logistics. We're shipping stuff all over the country, and then we're following it. So we do use some RFID tagging as well that we incorporate within the apps that they really like. We have a few. I think there's 15 or 16 people, and again, all internally within the 3 companies under our umbrella that are using them. So we don't have a lot of, I guess, external engagement, but we haven't had any issues with adoption. I mean, all people that use internally absolutely could not do what we do as easily without it. So.
Cool. Do we want to do a quick run through of features we have that have been built that have not just been rolled out yet? I know Arthur, I know we have at least a couple that you and I talked about. That just might be interesting for Matt and some of the others.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of features that were already kind of like announced on community posts. I think the first one is video capturing. So today in AppSheet, you know that you can view videos if they're hosted on YouTube or Vimeo or something like that, through some public URL. So we have essentially a preview that we're going to be rolling out early in January to a couple of beta testers, essentially, where you will finally be able to, capture your own short video and then upload it to your data in the back end. That's one thing. A second one that already has been announced is what we call custom yes/no labels. So you're familiar with the yes/no data type. Today, it's pretty rigid in the sense that it shows either the Y or N letter to explain what it is, and you have to jump through hoops in order to label it differently through virtual columns, and then it adds another layer of complications for other things. So we are enabling these custom labels. So for the yes value, you can assign whatever string you want, and for the no value, you'll have something else. And so that's coming your way. Then there's a couple of things that haven't really been announced, or that we had to pause for a little bit. So there's the iframe, an iframe view that lets you display some, let's say, web content on some of your detail views. So as an example, you have to process some documents, and oftentimes you have, like a PDF. And now on the detail view, you'd have, like if it's an invoice, like the price, and then the account number and things like that. So you'll be able to display the document really next to the detailed record of that, the details of that record. And then we have some improvements around basic functionalities in apps that were not there, that are still not there. One, we're going to enable column resizing in a table view. So today, you know that you can't really change the width of your column, and that can be frustrating in some cases. So we're going to let app users do that on their own. Obviously, we still want to provide, a good sizing default value, but different form factors and all these things make it that app users will probably like to do that themselves. And one final one maybe that we can share is filtering. Creating filters in AppSheet is somewhat possible. Again, you have to jump a little bit through hoops, create your dashboards and multiple views, and connect things properly. So we're gonna have filters that are natively in the application, so that you just, as an app creator, you'll just be saying like, I want to enable filters on this column, and that column, and then this will show up in the for the app user, and they'll just work like normal filters. These are the ones coming pretty soon. I don't know if you want to add something, Praveen, but you're muted.
So these are things that are, when we say in flight, these are not in plans on documents, but they're in there's code, there's UX design work, there's so the engine is it's moving in at least I think 50% of those working, and there's but it's not yet rolled out. So and rollouts have gotten much slower than before, partly also because there's other changes happening. There's only so many things breaking can take at any point in time, and so you sort of been a little more cautious on some things. I'll add one thing to that. There's the user consent form that we sort of basically jammed on every single application by default about a year ago, is going to get some flexibilities in that it's going to be localizable, and it's also going to become optional. So it still will be on by default, but optionally it's something you can disable because you may not need your scenario may not require the compliance. It doesn't have the same compliance requirements that maybe many other people have. So, Jairam. Welcome, Jay. Also one of our long-standing customers.
Hey, Praveen, I could share a couple of things that are coming up for connectors.
Yeah, please.
So I own kind of the connectivity area for AppSheet. So some of the things that we're focused on coming up probably, in the next couple quarters would be, there's a really exciting new capability to look at Google Drive as a data source. And this allows you to do some interesting things, like with images. You could have a repository of images on your Google Drive, and you can just say, that folder is my data source. And now the folder is a table. Each row in the table is a file. And you could do something like a gallery view, where you just have a view of all the images on that folder. You can do things like that that requires you to build a sheet and then somehow use some external process to put all the links to the images in the sheet so that you can then, have this gallery view. So this will save you quite a few steps on that. And we're also linking into our automation features that are coming up so that you can build processes that get executed when a file arrives in Drive, execute a process that would automate some downstream processing that you want to take on that file. So that's pretty exciting. We're doing a lot of work with the AppScript team. We have an initial feature that's should be rolling out in Q1 that will allow you to simply make a webhook call to invoke an AppScript, pass it a few parameters, and then basically that AppScript could execute some automation to do, once you're in AppScript, you can do JavaScript and do pretty much anything you want, right? There's some other things that we'll do kind of incrementally as we go. We have some other ideas for how we can more tightly integrate with AppScript, but that will be kind of the first step towards that. We've had a lot of requests for BigQuery. I don't know if you guys have used that as a Google Cloud product that is a data warehouse. Lets you store massive amounts of data and then run queries very quickly because it's built on Google infrastructure. And so we've had people requesting that we add that as a data source so that you could build apps based on that BigQuery data. Some enhancements to some of the existing connectors, like our Apogee data source, we're planning to add OAuth authentication. Right now it's API key based authentication, so it'll allow you to have that user level authentication on the API so that the user is not getting access to data that they shouldn't have access to. And for OData as well, that same feature. Another little thing is that we have been getting requests for Cloud SQL to have two-way SSL set up so that you can basically have a client certificate on the database loaded into AppSheet so that you can have a secure tunnel of communication between AppSheet and Cloud SQL. So those are the things that are coming up probably in the first couple quarters. There's lots of other things on the roadmap that we're working on, and I'm excited to hear from you about any other connectivity things. We are focusing on Google first, so we want to make Google Workspace more and more natural to use with AppSheet. So any way that we can increase that with Google Drive, AppScript, we have some Google Chat stuff coming up, Gmail, and GCP, like BigQuery and other PubSub and other services like that. Those are going to be our first priorities. And then we'll also look at other things like third-party tools. Like, we've heard your requirement loud and clear, Lucinda, on WhatsApp. That would be a possible connector. And other messaging tools too. That's something that we've seen as requests coming in. Any questions on that? Great.
Thanks, Scott. It was really useful. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes. What I think I could do for a few minutes is just show a sort of an overview of where our product investments are going for the next year. One request, though, everything we've talked about here so far is, feel free to, if you say, hey, I was on this call with the AppSheet folks, and they say, hey, we're going to do something with, BigQuery. It's cool. If you don't mind, don't take a screenshot of what I'm showing next, just because it's an internal document, but I'm just using that as a framing for, this is our internal product plan document. Okay.